I'm Medina Thompson. I'm the Senior Information and Content Officer at Bliss, and we are here to talk about family integrated care and how that influenced your neonatal journey. If you'd both like to introduce yourselves, that'd be great.
Hi, my name's Beth. I'm 32 and I'm the mother of 2 boys.
Hi, my name's Haseeb. I'm father of 2 boys and husband to Beth.
Thank you both so much for joining me today. So I'm going to start with just talking about family integrated care, just to give like a brief definition, which is that family integrated care, otherwise known as FICare, is a model of care for babies born premature or sick, which promotes a culture of partnership and collaboration between parents and healthcare professionals working to care for babies on the neonatal unit. So I guess my first question to both of you separately is, and I'll start with you, Beth, is did you know what FICare was when you were on the neonatal unit with your son?
No, not at all. I to be honest, I didn't actually know the term existed before obviously I was in contact with yourself. So no, I wasn't aware of it, and I hadn't heard the term on the neonatal unit either.
And how about you, Haseeb? Was it the same for you, that you didn't know what FICare was? Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. Likewise, I hadn't heard the term before, never seen it mentioned or brought up anywhere. So yeah, same as Beth. First time I heard of it was with yourself.
So now that you do know what it is and kind of understand what it means for neonatal care in terms of thinking about communication between staff and parents, information sharing, individualized care, shared decision making, those kind of things, do you think that there was, and obviously we're taking the caveat that your experience was during COVID, so things were very different. Do you think there was anything about FICare that was present in your neonatal experience?
Not really, if I'm honest. I think no. When I kind of think back, obviously it was 5 years ago, but when I kind of think back, not really. The only kind of things that I can think about are the kind of the nurses trying to, which I guess is FICare, trying to help me do skin to skin with the baby, and trying to help me breastfeed him, and obviously trying to teach me how to change his nappy, because initially he was in an incubator and he was our first baby, so it was kind of like, oh my god, how do I do this when my baby's in such a small thing with lots of wires all over him? And so yeah, I think those aspects were there, but then there was quite a lot missing, in my opinion, that should have been there to support me, especially because of the COVID restrictions. I think Haseeb visited once, didn't you?
Yeah.
But I was there with him for 8 days initially, and then he was admitted at a later date as well. But yeah, during that time, I feel like there was a lot more that could have been done. Actually, especially because it was COVID, there should have been more done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Makes sense. And how about you, Haseeb? Do you kind of agree?
Yeah, so from my perspective, it was slightly different. Obviously, where I was at home, I wasn't allowed to visit at all. There's one time I was allowed to visit instead of Beth.
Yeah, so it was either or, but I was quite unwell one day, and I needed to rest, so I said to Haseeb, can you go for today? I just didn't want to leave baby on his own, so...
and I didn't find anything present. There was no communication, no information of what was going on, what's the next steps, what's happening now. Any bit of information I had came from Beth, and even then, because of how unwell she was, it was quite vague.
Yeah.
And obviously, no Wi-Fi and no signal.
So in the neonatal unit, there was no Wi-Fi, no signal. So when Beth went to visit baby, I didn't know what was happening, what was going on, how things were, how he was doing. And when I was visiting, likewise, I couldn't inform Beth of how he was doing. Even on the ward rounds, I couldn't update her. So that was quite a big issue.
Really difficult to not know what's going on especially when you, Haseeb, were at home, to not have those communication lines open, not just between you and Beth because of the fact that the Wi-Fi wasn't working, but also between healthcare professionals and yourselves.
Yeah.
And the only way I could kind of update him was when I went back to the postnatal ward. Is postnatal? Yeah, the postnatal ward. And obviously that wasn't that frequently because you want to be with your baby. I think the only times I really went back were to eat because they didn't offer me food on the ward, on the neonatal unit. So I went back to the postnatal ward to eat. So.
Yeah. I guess thinking about this in terms of what you would have wanted in an ideal world, what things would you have wanted healthcare professionals to have done to help you with the barriers towards you being involved in your son's care? So that's things like supporting you with accommodation, with finances, with knowing what your needs actually were, because I don't think that anyone ever actually asked you what your family's needs were or what your needs were as individuals.
Yeah. So for me, someone asking me what my needs were, especially considering what was going on. I struggle with my mental health anyway, and I struggled even more, and I cried every single day because I wanted to have that communication, and I wanted to be able to talk to other people about it. And I mean, I could have, I don't know, found a support group, or, there could have been someone. I actually didn't even know about Bliss until we came home and I started researching support for being in the neonatal unit because I found it really traumatic. And I feel there should have been some resources given, some questions around what my needs specifically were. I also had some mobility needs, but that wasn't really spoken about. And the first day or so, I was taken in a wheelchair, but due to them being short-staffed, I had to wait a long time for a wheelchair to take me to see my baby. And I just thought, do you know what? I'm just going to walk because I don't want to sit and wait for a wheelchair all this time. Obviously, waiting for a wheelchair to go back was okay because I didn't mind being there waiting. But I just wanted to kind of get up and go to the unit. So that communication as well was a huge thing. I just feel like, I don't know, there should have been, I know the unit was being refurbished, but there should have been some kind of, I don't know, like temporary Wi-Fi, temporary internet connection, something for the parents to not feel so alone while they were in the unit, because obviously a lot of parents spend their days there. We're not talking like they pop in to visit for an hour. They spend the day with their baby. And I would have also have liked some more kind of help about knowing what certain medical things were. So like I didn't necessarily know what an NG tube was, but I learned what that was. And I feel like when he pulled it out quite a few times, and the first time I really panicked because I didn't know what impact that would have on him. Whereas if someone had just explained to me and said, it goes back in quite easily, and this is what it's for, and this is what this wire's for, and this is what this monitor's for, that would have put me more at ease, and I would have understood more about, I guess, the kind of medical equipment that they're using. I think I've covered most things.
So from my perspective, it's a little bit like the dads get forgotten. So there was no sort of, it was more so like I just turned up. and was left to do my own thing, and there was no questions about, oh, how are you coping, or how's things for you at home, and do you have support in place for when you get home with mum and baby, or it was literally
support for now.
do I have support for now? And to be honest, it was probably the hardest time that I've ever been through, and there was I had to do it on my own. And even when I was there, it was like Beth said, I didn't know what any of the medical equipment was. I didn't know sort of any of the terminology used in the ward round, and it was very sort of briefly touched upon, and then me leaving later in the day and updating Beth of how he was. It was quite difficult for me to relay that across, because
you didn't really understand what you were relaying.
I didn't really understand what was going on.
So you struggled with your eyesight.
Yeah, so understandably, it's quite a dark unit with a lot of artificial lighting, and I've got condition with my eyes, and that I really struggled with, and just the kind of just the question saying, is there anything you need support with, or it's hard to explain really, because it's like there was so much lacking. So
nobody supported you with, like, because I sent express breast milk down, didn't I? And nobody really supported you with feeding, changing his nappy.
No, so it was all
skin to skin, that kind of thing.
I just had to wing it the whole way, because there was not one question of, oh, have you been to this unit before? Do you know
where the milk's kept?
Yeah, do you know where this is kept? Do you know why your baby is here? Do you know why your baby has a cannula in, or the tube up his nose? And there was none of that, and it was only because I had a little bit of conversation with Beth beforehand. I kind of prepared myself.
Yeah.
But to see it with your, well, I was going to say with your first one, but with any of your children, is horrible. And then on top of that, to kind of be left on your own to kind of comprehend what is going on.
Yeah.
It is very difficult.
So what I was going to ask is about feelings of isolation. And I think that it sounds from what you've said that you both felt quite isolated, and also isolated from one another because you weren't together. And can you think of things that would have helped? What were those things about, like attitude from staff, like communication and just talking to you and checking in and seeing if you're okay? Is there anything else that would have helped, do you think?
I've been thinking about this, and I thought that potentially, I don't know how it would work cost-wise and things like that, but I thought potentially the unit... Oh, sorry. I thought potentially the units could have like a tablet or something like that people could use if they don't have a phone, or they don't have internet, or a tablet that's connected specifically to the Wi-Fi. And sure, now the unit's okay with Wi-Fi and signal, but not everybody has smartphones, and not everybody has that kind of access to the internet. So if the unit itself had like a tablet, then maybe people could use that to research, or to find support groups, or to video call, or to, do you know what I mean? I don't know how financially that would work and practically, but in my opinion, that would have really helped me, because I would have been able to video call people while I was there and talk to them and like proudly show off my baby, and you know, and have that connection and feeling that people can see my baby, but people can also understand what I'm going through. And I could research what I needed as well.
So I could understand and know what was going on.
Yeah. That's a big thing, I think, that would have helped at the time. Don't know. Is there anything else you think?
Just a bit of, even like a leaflet or something. Like, again, I'm going back to
There
the dads.
probably is, like, but
if
even
they don't give it to you, if they don't give it
no,
to you,
this is the
then
thing. No,
Yeah, but even if they don't, if they haven't said, "Oh, there's a load of leaflets on the table there that might be of use," then I can think, "All right."
or like a welcome to the neonatal unit pack, and here is everything you need to know, and here is what we can help you with. This is the support. This is like medical terminology dictionary. Here's how we can support you financially. Here's how we can support you if you need accommodation, travel, visiting times, like how we can support you if you've got other children. Like, I think, like I said, I don't know if they do. I've never seen one, but something like that would have been brilliant. And I think it would also have felt very like they care about me and they care about my child and they want me to have the best experience that I can.
Yeah.
I think that
would be fab.
That's very, like, family integrated care, and the purpose of it is to support the entire family so you can be parents in the best way that's possible for your child.
Yeah.
And that is about providing you with all the surrounding things, the ancillary things that you need, not just caring for your baby. So like you said, if you knew that you could get food when you were on the neonatal unit and you didn't have to go back to the postnatal unit to get your food because you were expressing, those kind of things are all the things that you need in order to care for your baby.
Yeah.
I do think, and I kind of want to go back to this a bit more, is this thing about the needs that you had as individuals not being asked what you needed. So Haseeb, for you, your eyesight is definitely one of them.
Yeah.
No one asking you whether you had any needs that they needed to facilitate.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't even need to be like, do you have any disabilities or do you struggle with anything? It could be as sort of open as, is there anything that we can do? Or anything you need? Just something so basic. And there was nothing. It was like, I went to the unit, I was let in, and it's kind of, your baby's over there, and then off you go. So there's
no like check-in with you as a person.
Yeah,
like, how are you coping? How are you doing? Like, how are you feeling on the unit? Can we help you in any other ways? It's just very much about the baby and how they're cared for, which is great. And as a parent, generally your priority is your baby. But
and understandably, their priority is your baby as well.
But the parents and, I don't know, anybody else who is in the unit and directly involved with the baby, they are really the next most important thing to the baby. Just as important, actually, as the baby, because they need to be supported to care for their baby. And I just feel like, the baby's being very well looked after and their needs are being very well met. But what about the parent that's there trying to hold everything together? Their needs need to be met as well. They need to be thought about. And I understand that the unit is there for unwell, sick, premature babies. But like I said,
an information pack or something would be such a game changer. I mean, it would be something that I could take home and kind of read through, because I was at home lost for 8 days.
Yeah, you just didn't even look after yourself.
I wasn't eating properly. I wasn't. Yeah, it was, and I just had no idea what was going on. I had no professionals that I could talk to on the ward and kind of give me a little bit of an explanation. And because of Beth's health at the time, I got quite limited information. She was finding the time very difficult as well, and obviously physically, mentally, and emotionally. So information isn't going to be absorbed and relayed across correctly, and that's also what I think with the ward round that I was present for, it was, I didn't really understand what was going on. I was so focused on...
They just zoom from baby to baby.
Yeah, I was focused on my baby.
Stop and actually take time to ask you, did you understand what we've just said? Do you understand what's going to happen next? Do you understand what test we're doing or whatever? They just kind of go from baby to baby to baby to baby, and then they're like, okay, bye, and they're off. And then if you want to get hold of the doctors again, it's really, really hard if you've got any questions. And I actually remember one nurse, she specifically printed out information about what was going on with our son, and she had the information by his bedside. And I think that was actually really great, because then people didn't have to keep questioning and people didn't have to keep asking, and it was something that was a bit unusual. It wasn't very common. So the information was there for anyone that was looking after him.
I didn't even know that was there.
Yeah, I remember this. To look at and to know kind of what was wrong, if that makes sense, rather than having to keep questioning, because it was a bit of a sensitive matter why he was there, if that makes sense. And it was hard for me to talk about as well. So having that there, actually, that really did help in a way. But I guess in a sense that is FICare in a way, because that's meaning that I don't have to keep repeating myself.
Yeah.
And it means that anyone can kind of pick that up and just read a little bit about what's going on and just kind of come to baby, look after him, or come and talk to me. They don't need to go over the whole story again and again, which is exhausting.
Yeah, it's just another way to support you.
Yeah.
And help you to be able to support your son without having to constantly explain something. It's just a simple thing that makes a big difference.
Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah.
I think also, sorry, just want to add, the fact that when I was there, I didn't see anyone. It's like I didn't see any staff. Just like if somebody was walking past, they could just let themselves known. So say, hello, I'm here if you need anything or have any questions.
Well, you saw the doctor on the ward round, but you didn't.
Yeah, but
that was the ward round, wasn't it? You didn't see any nurses or any other.
Yeah, they don't specifically have to come up to you and say, like, ask the questions. You can just literally just show your face. Hello. So you know you're not on your own.
Yeah. Did you? Were you? Either of you? I'm sure this is probably going to be a bit more relevant to you, Beth, because you were there more. But did you get involved with the care of your son? Was there like hands-on cares that you provided?
Yeah, so I did. I didn't initially, because kind of going in there on my own, it just really freaked me out, to be honest. And I found it's even making me feel a bit emotional now. I found it really hard to kind of go in and see him like that.
Yeah.
And he just, even though he was full term, he just still, because he was in like an incubator, he felt very kind of fragile. And because he was in an incubator, I didn't know if I could touch his leg or what wires I might knock off. And then I think after a day or so, I think I did actually speak to someone and say, look, could you please help me? I'd really like to try and change his nappy. And then they showed me what to do. I also asked for some help with breastfeeding, but realistically, they weren't great. They kind of said, when you get back onto the ward, ask for some support. So I mainly expressed on the ward, because I also didn't feel... I actually had like a side room on the ward, because we'd been there. Most people are like there for one night, aren't they, normally, or a couple of nights. But because we were going to be there for a while, they gave me a side room. And I just felt it was more private going back to a side room and expressing. I didn't feel there was as much privacy on the neonatal ward, because they did have a curtain you could pull round, but people seemed to just walk in and out whenever, without kind of almost like knocking as such and saying, could we please come in? People just seem to come in and out. So I did ask for help with doing skin to skin. So they came and did that with me. And one of the nurses did try and help me get him to latch, but he was unable to latch for about 6 weeks. So that kind of happened at home with the infant feeding support team. So we tried to breastfeed, but we mainly did like skin to skin. And I kind of sat next to him and like talked to him and sung to him and just took videos and things, because obviously I couldn't call anyone or speak to anyone. So I just took loads of videos and loads of pictures. Then I think after that he ended up in like a cot, so they took him out of the incubator. And that was a bit easier to do things. And I found that at that point I'd got a bit more confident, and I managed to kind of change his nappy, and I bottle fed him a couple of times, like my express milk. I think they also wanted him to have a bit of formula as well, so he did have that, because I think where I wasn't feeling very well, I couldn't express enough milk. I didn't actually feed him through the tube. I didn't do that. But yeah, and I didn't like bath him or wash him or anything. It was mainly just kind of nappy care, skin to skin, and some feeding. Not a lot, but some feeding, because they had them on a very like robotic schedule. I can't remember if it was like every 3 hours or every 4 hours or something they fed them. And then when I got home and I actually managed to transition to fully breastfeeding him, I got a bit confused as to why he wanted to feed more than every 3 hours or something. And nobody actually told me that breastfeeding is completely different. So again, if I'd been told, you're going home kind of with the aim to breastfeed, this is what breastfeeding looks like, that would have been really helpful as well, because I just couldn't get my head around why he wanted to feed more than those set times. But obviously as time went on, things got easier. So yeah, those are the kind of things I got involved with.
Me,
you would have fed him.
I'm just trying to think, did I feed him? Because I didn't actually know, like you said before, I didn't know how much I was able to do with him, like hold his hands or like could I pick him up. But I do remember now doing skin to skin with him, but I don't think I got involved with nappy changes or feeding. I think
did the nurse do that then?
Must have done, yeah. I don't know if it was because he was in neonatal care, the nurse was like, "I'll give him here, I'll sort him out," kind of thing, or if it was I didn't feel comfortable or confident doing it. So, but yeah, care wise, I don't remember doing much. But then if it was because of my confidence and a little bit of support, to say, "Oh, that's okay, I will help you change his nappy, or I'll guide you on how to feed him," would have been helpful. But again, I can't say that was or wasn't the case, because it was. I don't really remember.
I remember I had to ask for a lot of support. It was never
nothing was offered.
Like help with this? It was like, "Excuse me, could you please help me do this?" And luckily, I think there was a student nurse who was quite willing to help people, because I think that might have been her role, or she couldn't do other stuff. I don't know, but she was quite willing to help everybody with those kind of things.
You've both mentioned confidence in caregiving and daily cares. And I think that's a really interesting use of word, because it really is something that you do need support to build up that confidence. Like, you are new parents, it was your first child, and they're in neonatal care, so you're already nervous about their health and their well-being, and it's quite daunting, like you said, with the wires and the incubator and all of those things. And do you think it would have been just a case of the staff reassuring you, or are there other things that would have helped you to feel more confident?
For me personally, I think reassurance, but also kind of like almost like, you know, when you first come to the unit, like I said, like an information pack on how to do things, or, you know, what's available, but also maybe like when you go to the unit, somebody saying to you, when your baby's admitted, someone saying to you like, shall I show you how to do X, Y, and Z? And you can kind of say yes or no, but if you say yes, then they kind of at the time will show you how to do those things. And if they kind of said, you know, if you say no, and if they said, you know, just let us know if you do need some help, I think maybe what I'm trying to say is when you first get to the unit, if they show you how to do those basics and they kind of tell you that babies are a little bit more robust than you think, it makes them feel less fragile and it makes them feel less scary. And I think, I just think that would have given a confidence boost, and just being like almost convinced to do things like, yeah, that's fine, you know, pick up your baby, and, you know, we can help you with this and we can help you with that. I think that kind of attitude would have been really good. But yeah, maybe even like we were saying about the information pack, something in there like on how to change your nappy, what all of the medical things are, and, you know, different ways of feeding babies, formula feeding. Is it breast or chest feeding? Yeah, and there's like other ways, isn't there? Like there's a supplementary nutrition, SNS, I think it's called. So all the kind of different ways of feeding and different ways of both parents or one parent, everybody, how they can get involved in feeding the baby as well. I just think it almost like when baby's admitted to the unit, it's a bit like an induction, you know, like here's your information pack, here's how to do the basics, and let us know if you need any more help, kind of thing.
Yeah.
That would have been really good, I think.
I think for me, it would be just literally somebody saying to me, yeah, you are allowed to hold your baby's hand, or you can pick him up. And if you are unsure how to hold your baby, would you like me to show you? Or is this your first child? Have you held a baby before? That just very sort of basic questions.
Well, like, is this your first time in a neonatal unit? Because someone could have 4 children, let's say, and their fourth is in the neonatal unit.
Yeah.
And despite the fact that they've had other babies, they've never been in that situation before.
Yeah, very true.
I think you can't just assume that even if someone has other children, that they know how to deal with that situation, because it's completely different. And just seeing those incubators, wires, tubes, whatever,
it's scary.
Put that fear into you. Like, can I do anything? Like, am I allowed to do this? Am I allowed to do that? Will the wires drop out? Like, you know, you've got all these different worries.
Will I hurt the baby? Will I? Is it against medical advice to lift him up or touch him? Or
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I can totally understand that. It's knowledge that you didn't have, and you really needed support to gain that knowledge, and the education aspect for parents or family members is really important.
And also, it's not a situation we were prepared for.
Yeah.
So it was completely unexpected that was going to happen. But then obviously we've gone on to have another baby earlier this year, and I explained what had happened with our first son, and there was a possibility that our second son could end up in the neonatal unit as well with the same issue. But luckily he didn't. But when I was being induced, they actually said to me, would you like to go and have a tour of the neonatal ward, just to kind of familiarise yourself, just to see how it is. And I think because I was being induced and it was the same neonatal unit that our son was at, I didn't really want the stress and the anxiety of going back there. So I wanted to keep things as kind of calm as possible, and I didn't want to make myself really anxious. So I think I declined, and I said, look, we have been there before, so, you know, worst case, we'll end up there again, but hopefully we won't. But I just didn't want that added kind of anxiety of going back to the unit. But I think it is good that they do offer that, especially if, there'll be a lot of women out there who know that their baby is going to need neonatal care. So if they get that option of familiarising themselves with the ward before baby's born, I think, it feels less scary when it happens at the time, because I just kind of assume the neonatal ward is full of really, really poorly babies, and it's a really scary ward. That was my assumption, and I was really kind of scared, what's behind those doors. So I think that being offered that the second time around was great, but I obviously get that they can't necessarily offer it to every single pregnant lady or pregnant person. But if you know your child's going to be admitted, or there is a possibility, then I think that's a really great thing to do, just to be offered a tour of the unit.
Do you think that there are specific tips that you'd have for parents who, for example, know that they are going to end up in neonatal, that would help them to be involved in their baby's care, to be partners in the care of their babies?
Can I go first?
Yeah.
I think for me, or from my perspective, it's don't be scared to ask questions, because it's not knowing which is a bigger, more scarier thing. So looking at wires and even the lighting, and just your baby sort of quite helpless in the incubator, and just asking those questions like, what's going on? What's happening next? Can I do this? Can I do that? And also, again, from a dad's point of view, there is help and support. And as a man, it's okay to feel certain ways and talk about that, and it is helpful, and the emotional and mental support is there. So
it's okay to get support.
It's okay to get support, and it is really, really helpful, and can make the difference.
There's a few things for me. So I think if you know your baby's going to be admitted to neonatal care, ask for a tour of the ward beforehand, so you're familiar with it, and so it's not kind of a big shock. Maybe once you're there, familiarise yourself with the ward. So I after we were discharged, found out that there was a parents' room, and I think it had a microwave and a fridge, and I didn't know about any of that. So find out what facilities are available, where milk can be stored, where you can get a breast pump from, or where you can make bottles up. Also find out about any other facilities like showers, anything that would make you feel kind of more at home, I guess. And also ask for support. Definitely ask for support. Don't be afraid to say, I'm not sure what I'm doing, or I don't really understand what this is. Can you tell me? And ask if there's any leaflets around, if there's any support you can read. Leaflets you can read. And also, it's obviously hindsight's a great thing. So with our second son, I asked for help in the form of mental health midwives, which I know is off the neonatal ward, but there is kind of that mental health support around at the hospital. And I'm sure the neonatal unit, if someone's just given birth, would be more than happy to contact a mental health midwife or someone like that to have a conversation and to just check in.
Because there's a lot of different specialties within the teams that they can point you to a particular person. Say, okay, I'll get this person to come and see you, or this person to come and see you after baby if need be, or that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So you know that you're not just going to be left in the lurch.
Yeah, and I think for me the biggest thing is to ask for support, and also ask for support from friends and family as well. So if you need support for childcare or pets or things that need to be done at home, ask for that support, because when you're at the neonatal unit, you don't want to be worrying about what's going on at home and other children, really.
Well, it's very hard to think about anything else.
Yeah, you want to kind of, you don't need that extra stress. So getting everybody around you to support you as well. Yeah, they're my kind of biggest things. And also just making sure that if you have any additional needs, making someone aware of them.
Yes.
And making them aware of how they can support you as well. Like I said, obviously with my second son, I knew we were in hospital with my second son for a week, and luckily he didn't need neonatal care, but he was being monitored on the ward. And my mental health started declining, and I said, can I please speak to a mental health midwife? And it's all kind of the second time around I've learned so much more, and we'd prepared ourselves for a neonatal stay again. So we'd kind of mentally prepared as much as we could, and we had childcare in place for our older son, and we had our pets looked after, so we had everything at home sorted so that when we were in hospital we didn't need to worry too much. So yeah, I think that's really, really, really important, and leaning on friends and family as well, definitely.
Yeah, the support networks are so key, and I guess it's really lucky if you have that, and it's really important to try and lean on people as much as you can.
But then I feel like if you don't have that, then it's really important to ask for support on the unit, and talk to someone. And I'm sure that if somebody said to a nurse, look, I'm really struggling today, I'm not feeling great, I need to talk to someone, they would send someone to talk to you or themselves. Like they've even got like the chaplain, is it chaplain service, is that what it's called? And I know that obviously they will come and speak to you no matter what religion you are as well. So if you want to speak to somebody, they're there as well. I think it's about knowing what support is around you, and that's why I feel like a information pack would be really, really beneficial, knowing where you can get support, and even putting like details of Bliss in, because like I said, I didn't know about Bliss until I was searching for support once we got home, because I'd found the whole experience really traumatic. And I believe like even if I was on the unit, I could speak to someone from Bliss, couldn't I? So yeah, so making people aware of that as well, and maybe, I don't know, like a leaflet with some mental health support, phone numbers or drop-ins local. Yeah, I have so many great ideas. It's just implementing them, isn't it? That's the thing. It's not as simple as that. But
I think the thing is, though, that and this is what you both kind of alluded to, is that it's not necessarily that those things didn't exist, it's that you weren't made aware of them. So lots of those services do exist and probably exist on your unit, but if you don't know about them, you can't access them.
No. And if you can't do the research yourself, and let's be honest, most people aren't in the right headspace to do that research.
Yeah, I wouldn't have been.
I remember there was a lady next to me. Everyone was quite solitary, to be honest. Nobody really spoke a lot, but then I guess, again, because it was COVID, nobody wanted to be too near to each other. And we were on a ward with sick babies, so nobody wanted to kind of mix too much. And we all had to wear masks, so obviously you couldn't like kiss your baby or anything, which was hard. But I remember a lady next to me used to just sit there with her Kindle, and she would just sit reading with her Kindle, and sometimes she would sit with the baby on her, other times the baby would be in the incubator, but she would just sit there reading. So I think, you know, there can be time for you to sit and read things, and there can be time for you to sit and research. So if you're given that information to read through, then great, because realistically newborn babies and premature babies do sleep quite a lot. So you've got,
I think also being told that it's okay to do that. it
You
is
feel
okay.
like you should just sit there and watch your baby. You shouldn't do anything else.
Like, it's okay for you to spend time holding your baby or next to your baby, and like you said, like read a book or
Yeah.
do crossword or whatever.
I
it
felt
be.
really guilty though, trying to. Obviously, I had, like I said, no internet, no Wi-Fi, so couldn't really do anything on my phone. But there were times where I didn't really feel strong enough to hold the baby, and I felt really guilty, like I should be holding him. And again, I didn't speak to anyone about that, and I feel like kind of normalizing feelings as well is a really good thing, and normalizing maybe the fact that you might not bond with your baby straight away. Normalizing all these kind of thoughts and feelings is really important, in my opinion. Sorry, I think we've gone off track.
I think that's it's another aspect of it is feeling like what you're going through, you're not alone. And that's another thing about isolation, isn't it? Especially at a time when your friends and family might not understand what you're going through, but to know that those feelings and those thoughts are natural and that it's a process that you have to go through. And I guess also, like, another thing is just like it all comes back to like what your individual needs were and what your needs were as a family.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
And if you had like one tip for healthcare professionals, then looking back on your experience, and you could say to a healthcare professional, to a room of healthcare professionals in the unit that you were in, what would be the one thing that you would want them to remember when working with neonatal families to make sure that they can be partners in their baby's care?
For me, it would be to ask what a parent needs and what support they need, maybe what support they've already got in place, but to ask what their needs are, to check in on them as well, make sure their mental health is okay. And sorry, I know you said one, but to make them aware of the support that is available in the unit.
For me, it would be to let the parents know what's going on and what's happening next and why this is there and why your baby has this or that.
And not use medical terminology.
Well, they can, but also ask, did you understand what I just said, basically?
Yeah.
To just keep them informed and updated. Like, if I use myself as an example, at home for 8 days, not having a clue what was going on, just the odd update here and there. And if at least on the day that I was able to go in, if I was told what's happening with my baby, what the next step are.
I just thought if you were told, here's our phone number, you can call for an update.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So, for me, it's kind of being informing the parents of what's happening and what's going on. Or making it clear that the parents, like, if you want an update, ask us or call us, or if you want to know what's going on, like that, it's okay to ask rather than feeling like on a neonatal unit you have to sort of sit there in silence and not move and don't disturb anyone or anything. And yeah,
it makes a lot of sense. It's a lot to do with like communication and information sharing, keeping parents updated, and opening those lines of communication in whatever way they are.
The key things are communication and personalised support.
Yeah.
They're the two most important things, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree.
And this is slightly off topic, but kind of to do with another project we're working on. If you were to have a conversation with staff when you did enter the unit, so they could get to know you as a family and as individuals and what you needed, when would be the ideal time for that conversation to take place?
It's difficult because I wasn't there when he was admitted. You were there, weren't you?
Was I? I thought you just texted me saying they're taking him to neonatal.
No, but they had said that you could be there while he was being admitted.
Was I? Was I there? I don't see. It was that hard a time for me. basically just buried it.
Yeah, because remember they put a cannula in his hand and you felt all funny. Do you remember? Then they took him for a lumbar puncture.
Oh, I didn't know that was on admission.
Yeah, because I wasn't there when he was admitted. Because I remember going down there, and I couldn't obviously be there because you were there, but I remember going down there and being like, oh, this is such a scary place. But
I think once I understand, obviously, when they're first taking baby to the unit, it's I'm assuming a bit of an emergency. That's why they're going there. So maybe once things have calmed down a little bit and the parents are a little bit less panicked and stressed and overwhelmed with what's just happened.
But I think it needs to be within that same day, though.
Yeah.
Within that same day. And I think, I mean, like I said, we weren't, not that Haseeb obviously struggles with that, but we weren't together when he was admitted. So I think they need to wait for the parents to be together if possible. If not, obviously there'll be circumstances where both parents can't be there. Then, yeah, I think once baby's kind of settled into the unit, once they've got baby there, they've done their immediate stuff they need to do, then that discussion, I think, then would be the best. But I think it still needs to be the first day that they're there, or obviously if it's in the evening, then maybe the next morning. But soon.
Yeah, it needs to be pretty quick.
But not right away, because you just don't take the information in if you're kind of feeling panicked and you're in a new place that feels scary. Like, you don't take all of that in. So once you've had a moment to just have a breather and just realize kind of what's going on, then yeah, I think that's a good time, because I think it gives a lot of reassurance as well, and it makes you feel more reassured and more comfortable as well.
Yeah, because the thing, the first thing that's going to come into your head is the worst. You're going to think worst case scenario straight away, and I think having all that explained to you when things have calmed down is great. But maybe in that actually admission phase, just a quick question, maybe, would you like this explained to you, or are you okay, or just a little bit of a helping hand to understand or express emotions, or yes, and then I think the bulk of it or the rest of it can come, like Beth said, same day or following morning, when things have calmed down.
Well, that's a good idea. Maybe just while everything's happening, just a quick check in with the parents, like, are you okay? But not.
But also, do you understand?
Do you understand why baby is being brought here? This is just what we're going to do when baby first arrives here, and then you can sit with baby, or you can do this or do that. Just a kind of short bit of information and just checking how the parent is. And then once things have settled, the kind of bigger block of information.
But even saying, I will pop in, or somebody will come and see you once you calm down.
Yeah.
So you don't assume that that's it. You're here you go. You're in. That's it. You're left alone.
Yeah.
You know somebody is going to come to talk to you shortly, or following morning, or whenever it be.
Yeah, that makes sense. Because I do think there is something in it being too much too soon. And I think we talked about this, that, when it's kind of an emergency situation, or you're scared and you're worried about your child and you're worried about your partner as well, that the information doesn't necessarily go in.
No, it doesn't. You need a minute like, you need a bit of time to just take it all in, just kind of realise where you are, what's going on. Maybe even, process it, or make any calls you need to make, and then kind of settle in as such.
Yeah.
Because people can be there for days and months, days and weeks and months, can't they? So it can be a place that they kind of call home for a very, very long time. So they need that chance to just settle in and know kind of what's going on and what they can and can't do. So
I suppose now that you guys have an understanding of what family integrated care is, what aspects of it were there for your neonatal journey with your first son, what does it mean to you? What do you think the importance of it is?
For me, it's kind of putting the parents, not putting them first, but they are just as important as the child. So making sure that the parents are well supported, making sure they feel comfortable, making sure they know what's going on, keeping them in the loop. And just, yeah, that's kind of my interpretation, and just making sure that their needs are all met and making sure that they're checked in on. Yeah, it's making sure that the parents are just as important as the child.
And how about you?
Baby.
And how about you, Haseeb?
For me, it's making sure nobody has to go through what I did, basically, and how I felt, because I wouldn't want that for anyone. And yeah, if people are aware of these things and these things are put in place, then hopefully no one does feel that way or experiences that.
Was there a second part to that question?
No, I think it's just,
Felt like that.
yeah, I think it's just that understanding.
It's kind of what it meant to you, and
just that, what it means to you, what the importance of it is. No.
Yeah, it's so important to me. It's kind of on par with the care of my baby, because I feel like if I'd have had a better experience in the neonatal unit, I wouldn't still kind of struggle with thinking about specific things, and I wouldn't still be dealing with certain kind of memories and traumatic events. I do obviously understand that it does impact people's mental health, but I just think if that care and support was there, the impact might not be so severe.
Yeah, definitely. Is there anything else that either of you would like to add?
Just a bit of advice to parents: don't be shy to ask questions.
Yeah.
There's no such thing as a stupid question, and if you've been advised that there is a possibility that your baby will go into neonatal care, then maybe mentally and practically prepare yourself for the worst and hope for the best.
Or research the support that you can get while you're there. My thought was, when people kind of ask us about the stay with baby, we would say like, oh, the neonatal ward were amazing, the care for the baby was brilliant. And then as time's gone on, the more I've kind of thought about it, and I've thought, yes, okay, baby's care was brilliant, but the care for me and my husband as parents wasn't there. And that's kind of what's left us kind of trying to still process memories and traumatic experiences and stuff. That's what's given us these issues. But I just want to put it out there that your baby will be well cared for, because they're just fantastic at caring for babies. But it's okay to obviously ask for care for yourself as well. It's more than okay to say, like, I have these needs and this is how you can support me at the moment, because I'm just as important as my baby. So yeah.
Well, you'll be the one looking after the baby when they're at neonatal, so
And
you need to be ready and in the right place.
Yeah, and let's be honest, this probably sounds bad, but the baby's not going to remember it. Like, our son doesn't remember anything to do with neonatal unit, obviously, because he was a newborn. But us as parents remember it. And that's why I also think that we need to make sure we have that good support, good care, because I think the birth of your child is a memory that will stay with you forever. And if you've had a child admitted to the neonatal unit, that makes it even harder and can make it possibly a traumatic memory. But if you have that support around you and you have the right people helping you, keeping you informed, helping you get involved with your baby, then I genuinely believe that the impact will be less. If that makes sense.
But you'll also never forget that support, isn't it?
No, that's the thing. You'll never forget that support, and you'll never forget those people that helped you through a tough time. So, yeah.
Thank you both so much. I really appreciate your time, your honesty.
Thank you.
And I know that
Thank you.
going back
I hope
over
it's
it and over
helped.
it's completely helpful, and it's going to be so helpful to other families and other parents. And I know that going over and over it, you start to think even more like, what was that I experienced? Was that okay?
And more memories come up as well.
Yeah.
And
so, just like I've said before, we are here to support you. Doesn't matter how long ago it was, because it lives with you. Yeah, thank you both so much, and have a really great rest of your day and a great week.
And you. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.